All right, we're going to talk about filtration today.
Okay.
We've done a lot of videos on this channel about different types of filtration and different brands and all this kind of stuff.
You've done those videos.
Well, yeah.
Not me.
That's true. Filtration is kind of more my thing, and that's fine. In fact, I've kind of forbid you from messing with filters. If something needs to be done with the filter, you let me do that.
Unless it's a sponge filter.
Right. We're going to spend some time talking about those today. But I thought it would be fun to just have a conversation about the different types of filtration, what's out there on the market, the main ones anyway. We're not going to talk about every single type of filter that's ever been made, but the main ones, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each different filter type and hopefully give the new fish keeper an idea of what they're looking at if they're trying to decide what kind of filter they want.
Right.
So let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so we're going to talk about sponge filters. We're going to talk about hang-on-the-back filters. Included in the hang-on-the-back conversation, we'll also talk about internal filters because they also hang on the back or the side or the front or wherever you want them. We'll talk about canisters, and then we'll spend a little bit of time talking about sumps. This is we're trying to put together a video for beginners here, and sumps may not be best for beginners, but we will talk about those a little bit. But the first thing to talk about is the easiest, most bare-bone basic form of filtration out there, which is sponge filters. You love some sponge filters.
I love sponge filters, and I like the hang-on-the-back filters. Everything else, that's all you.
Well, one of the things about sponge filters, and I've heard this before even when we had our shop, people come into the hobby and they see these canisters, and these canisters have 4 different little cages full of different types of media and all these different types of sponges. And then they've got charcoal and they've got this and that and all of these chips and ceramic. And then they see a sponge filter and they're like, well, it's just a sponge with bubbles going through it. They don't understand how could that be efficient like the other filters. And I'm here to tell anybody watching this, and I know you would agree, they are just as efficient as those other things. And the reason why is because when we're dealing with aquariums, we're dealing with bacteria. That's what we. When you're an aquarium keeper, you are a culturer. Culturer? You are someone that cultures bacteria. I don't know if I said that right, but that's. You're taking care of bacteria just as much as you are the fish, because it's the bacteria that takes care of the water, which makes it healthy for your fish.
Right.
Bacteria, beneficial bacteria that grows in aquariums, grows on surfaces. What does a sponge have? A lot of surface areas. Beneficial bacteria is obviously in the water because everything we do is in the water, but the bacteria accumulates on surfaces, the glass, the gravel, everywhere. And so when you have that sponge, you're giving it so much surface area to grow this bacteria.
And it's a sponge. And what do sponges do? They suck up the bacteria.
Very true. Even when you're cleaning the sink, it gets that bacteria and it stores it in there.
Exactly.
And that's why you can squeeze a sponge and it smells stinky. But yeah, I mean, that's a good analogy. It's not even an analogy because you're talking about a sponge. But that's the thing. It's the fact that you have so much surface area for bacteria. That's why they're so efficient. And let's face it, except for the chemistry altering media like charcoal and Purigen and things like that, everything in filters is about bacteria. The sponges and the surface area within the filter, it's all about a place to grow bacteria. So sponge filters does that in its most simplest form, and they're extremely efficient. They draw water through them by way of that tube with the bubbles going through it. That creates a current, which pulls the water through the sponge, which catches the debris and also provides the area for beneficial bacteria. They're not as cheap as people think. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but I'd like for you to talk about why you love sponge filters so much.
Why? Well, the simplicity and the cost. I think that is so important. And I feel like there's a lot of women, and I'm not trying to say men aren't the same way,
How
but
dare you.
women are going to be the ones that are going to be smarter about the money and about simplicity. What's easier to clean? Sponge filter is easy to clean. You know, you start talking about canister filters, I think of canister filters as big overpriced toys that men have to have. So I'm always going to go with the sponge filter or the hang on the back filter. So
Yeah, and the thing is, I just got done saying they're not cheap, and then you said you like them because of the cost.
But they are more
know.
affordable than a canister.
They certainly are, but there are hidden expenses that people don't think about when it comes to
Yes.
sponge filters. But I agree, the simplicity and the efficiency of them. And simplicity goes along also with the ease of maintenance. I mean, they're a simple filter. You don't have a lot of things that can go wrong in a
Right.
sponge filter, whereas with power filters, you have things that can break and things that can make loud noises and stuff.
I think the one thing, though, to think about is as far as sponge filter goes, something that could break because of power would be the air pump that it needs. And that is when things start getting a little bit costlier.
Right, and that's kind of the thing. You know, I said there's a hidden cost. You see a sponge filter, whether it's on our website or another website or really anywhere, you see sponge filters all over the place, and you're like, wow, it's a filter that's for a 20-gallon tank, and it's only like $8. What a bargain. And it is, but you're not considering the fact that you need to buy some airline hose, which a lot of sponge filters come with the airline hose.
$2.
I know, it's super cheap, but then you also have to buy the air pump.
The air pump.
And the air pump, is, in a lot of cases, is the same cost as a power filter. You can buy cheaper ones, but you know, air pumps are not dirt cheap. When you put everything together, the sponge filter, the airline, which again, super cheap, you probably have some laying around, and the pump, you're pretty much gonna spend the same amount as you would for a hang on the back filter. However, if you're someone that's setting up a bank of aquariums, multiple aquariums, that's when you can get one air pump that will supply all of those aquariums, sponge filters. You're going to save a whole lot of money
A lot more
if you
money.
do that versus buying individual hang-on back filters for all of those. So,
Right.
yeah, the only con that I would say about sponge filters, there's two really, but the first is,
They take up space in
and
the
they're not
aquarium.
very attractive.
That's very true.
I mean, it's a big, usually black sponge in the middle, not in the middle of your tank, but it's in the corner or wherever.
Yeah.
And most people are going to put sponge filters in small aquariums, so it's already small, and then you've got this big monstrosity in the corner. You can't really cover it up with a bunch of stuff because then it's not going to be able to draw water into it. So it's not the most attractive thing in the world. And then the other thing is cleaning them, though easy, can be a challenge because what happens to a sponge when you grab
pull
it?
it out, yeah.
When you grab a sponge, it goes and it goes all over the place. There is an easy trick to that, though. You take a big Ziploc bag or a big plastic bag of some kind. You put it down in there. You gently put the sponge filter in there, and then you pull the whole thing out.
Right.
That way, you're not releasing all of that debris in there. But yes, super easy.
All that glorious beneficial bacteria.
That's true. But yeah, that glorious beneficial bacteria also will turn the water completely brown because it's also got a lot of poop and nasty food and stuff in there.
Exactly.
But yeah, simple, cheap. Again, not as cheap as you think. Easy to maintain, very efficient. Can't go wrong with sponge filters. But when you graduate up to larger tanks, you're going to want to think about power filtration, especially like you said, you were so mean when you were talking about men that way. But men do like things with more power. That's what we
Yes.
do. So I do think that men are going to naturally gravitate towards power filtration. The first kind of power filtration that we would deal with is hang on the back filters. I love hang on the back filters.
I like them too.
I mean, they're easy. The very first aquarium I ever set up, I don't really count because I put an under gravel filter in there and it was terrible and I was horrible. But the first like real aquarium project I did, I used hang on the back filters, and I've loved them ever since. Very efficient, easy to install, easy to maintain. With most hang on the back filters, particularly for beginners, it's going to be as simple as removing the filter cartridge, putting a new one in, and that's it. Your filter is maintained.
I would say the only thing negative about a hang on the back filter would be noise. They can be, in my opinion, the most loud.
Depends on which one you get, but yeah, you're right.
Especially if you let the water get down just a little bit.
Yeah, see, that is true because you do have that waterfall that comes out of the filter. And if your water level gets down, now you've got an audible waterfall. Yes. And it's great unless you have to pee, and then it makes it 10 times worse. But yeah, that's certainly a con. A way to avoid that, in my opinion, would be to look for filters that have the pump inside the filter. What I mean by that is, hang on the back filters have a pump that draws the water into the box, which is where all of the filtration happens. That's accomplished one of two ways. Either there's a pump in the water that pumps water back to the filter box, or there's a pump in the box that pulls water from the tank. The ones that are the quietest are the ones that have the pump inside the water. That's just a no-brainer. We sell the Seachem Tidal filter on our website, and it is very, very quiet. And that's one of the reasons why, is because the pump is in the water. Some people, I've never really understood this, but some people are afraid that the pump being in the water is going to create all of this noise that's going to bother the fish. This makes no sense to me, because if that were the argument, you would not want to use any power filtration whatsoever, because the same mechanism that's pushing the water back is pulling the water in a hang on the back and making just as much noise. So I'll never understand that argument. But for us, the quietest ones are going to be the ones that have the pump in the water, not in the box. And yeah, that's the first thing I would look for. Easy to maintain, easy to install,
Definitely.
Not overly expensive. You really can't go wrong with hang on the back filters, especially the Tidal from Seachem. So the next thing is it's kind of it's very similar to hang on the backs, except it's all inside the aquarium, and that would be the internal filters. We sell a couple of them, the Shark from Seachem and the Micron from Seachem. This is basically a hang on the back filter that goes entirely into the water. Again, the people that have a hard time with pumps being in the water, they're not going to like these filters, but I don't understand those people anyway. But this is, again, it's everything inside the aquarium. Everything is in there. You don't have anything hanging on over the edge of the aquarium, which I guess one of the benefits of that would be a less leak potential. Because if you have water that's leaving the aquarium to go into a filter, you do have the potential of something happening in water spilling over or leaking through that. With an internal filter, you never have that issue. Also very quiet, easy to maintain. Everything's good there. Don't need to spend a whole lot of time about them. We've done videos, well, I've done videos about hang on the backs and the internal filters. We'll put them up. Which corner is it? In one of these corners, you're going to see a little eye that's going to pop up. We'll put those videos over there.
Well, let's talk about your favorite of all, the canister filters.
I don't know if they're my favorite.
They are. You know they are.
I do like canister filters. I like big, powerful. Yeah, I mean, I do like them. Canisters are one of those things that some people love them and some people hate them.
I'm not a fan.
I'm not going to name names, but she's one of those people that hates them, I guess.
I just don't. I don't need them.
That's fine. Canisters are something, if you're just getting into this, canisters are something that normally you're going to see on larger aquariums. Yes, they make them for small tanks too, but usually you're going to see them on larger tanks. Let's just say 90 gallons and above.
Right.
But there's plenty of 75 gallons and 55 gallons out there that have canister filters on them. What this does is it detaches the filter from the aquarium. It's a separate unit that usually most people are going to put in the stand below the aquarium. And all you have attached to the aquarium is hoses that go down to your canister. And everything is in there. You have a larger box to put more stuff in. Is that stuff valuable? Sure. Is there a lot of stuff that you can put in there? Yes. This is where, in my opinion, a lot of fish keepers go a little bit overboard and they overcomplicate this hobby a lot. We just talked about how efficient just having a sponge in the aquarium is.
Right.
So why would you need all of that other stuff? The reason why you would need it is because you're just going to want it, because you're going to want to do what's best, and you're going to think putting more stuff in there is going to be best for the fish, and you're not really going to be hurting anything by doing that. But a canister filter is a great way to do that because you've got all of these trays that are in there and all different kinds of things, room for days of things that you can put in there. So they're usually very efficient, or they're almost always very efficient, but they're also usually very quiet. The biggest drawbacks to canisters and what you dislike about them the most is when it comes to maintenance. Maintaining
and cost.
Cost is big.
I feel like, I'm going to go again with the whole, I think men are drawn to these more than women. I know there are women out there that use them too, so I'm not trying to disregard any women, but I think for men, it's like, my canister filter has this in it. Well, mine has that in it. Well, mine's better because it's newer. Well, my canister filter has 4 trays in it instead of 3.
Everybody's trying to one-up each other.
It's so funny.
Yeah, it's like a competition. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's men. That's what we do. We're competitive.
Well, like I
everything.
said, I'm not disregarding women. I know there are women that use them too, but I feel like it's more of a man's toy, and you guys just got to have bigger and better, just like the aquariums. I don't know of many women who have aquariums that are 240 or larger. I think it's mainly men.
Right,
and
things bigger.
There you go. Canister filters and sumps.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I we're digging a grave here now, but but no, you're right. I mean, men definitely go way more overboard than women do when it comes to stuff like this, and men just want to throw money at problems, and there's got to be something that I can put in there that's going to fix this problem.
Where a woman's going to be more like, well, let me just clean this tank. How about a water change?
Right. Well, get off my butt and do some work. Yeah, canisters are going to be a great way for men to be able to do that. Just, I've got to add something to this to make the problem go away or to make things even better.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things that causes problems in fish tanks is fish keepers. So, a lot of times if you just leave it alone, you're going to be much better off. But we're going a little bit long here. Sumps are the last thing. And we don't need to spend very much time on sumps, even though I have 4 of them. Sumps are kind of like a canister filter, but on steroids. I hate that cliche, but it's like a larger, more robust, more advanced canister filter. You can kind of see one here behind me. This is, again, a separate filter from the tank. You've got to have plumbing that goes from the tank down to this filter and then back up again. There is no more versatile form of filtration than a sump system because you could literally do anything in there that you want. You're smiling, which
because
means
I think of sumps as just another aquarium underneath your aquarium with sponge filters.
it's true. It's kind of true, yeah. But versatility, efficiency, you've got all of that space. You've got all of those sponges that you can put in there or whatever it is that you want to use. You have that versatility, endless opportunity to do fancy things like men like to do in their filters. But the cons are definitely going to be not cost. You might think cost, but that's not true because I've actually just recently done a video where I built sumps for the filter for the tank behind you, and I did it very cheaply. And so you can watch that if you want to see a cheap way to do it. But maintenance on sumps is going to be the critical thing that people are going to hate, because with a canister filter, it sucks to maintain a canister filter because you have to take it out. You know, you disconnect everything and water goes everywhere, and then you pull it out from underneath your tank, take it all apart and maintain it. Well, you can't do that with a sump. It's going to be under there and it's not coming out. So you got to crawl up underneath the tank and get down in there, and it is kind of a pain. It can be a hassle. That's the number one drawback to sumps. And if you don't know what you're doing, cost is going to be the other thing. But you know what? Let's just stop talking about sumps, or I'm going to stop talking about sumps, because we're talking for beginners here today. Your absolute best no-brainer choice is going to be either sponge filters or hang on the back filters for the new fish keeper. Case closed. All right, so there you go. I'm so glad you came up with this idea to do these type of videos. I am enjoying these so much fun to just relax, have a conversation about fish keeping. I'd love to know what you think, the viewer, about this format. Let us know down in the comment section. I do this every time I mention the comment section, and I hate that. I don't know why I do that, but
I don't know.
let us know what you think about this format. We'd love to hear from you. And I hope that clears things up for you about filtration. It was a lot of fun for us to do. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.